You want to talk about FEMA floods and failures? Fine. But let's set the record straight. Because once again, the radical left is playing the blame game, twisting facts, rewriting history, and launching another one of their desperate hit pieces on President Trump. This time, they're trying to say Trump caused a tragedy in Texas, that budget decisions were responsible for a failed FEMA response, that he endangered lives, and that somehow Obama of all people is the victim? Are you kidding me? This is the same old leftist tactic, blame Trump for everything under the sun while ignoring the truth. But patriots, we've seen this show before, and we're not buying it. So today we're reacting to this nonsense and breaking down exactly how the left manipulates crisis, lies to the American people, and uses media smears to cover up their own incompetence.
You know, I adore my ranking member because there wasn't time for you to answer most of the questions fully, but there was an extra 50 seconds for his closing statement after the bell ran out. Let me switch subjects a little, and mine may be a little bit yes or no, but if they're not, you just tell me. The Millennium Challenge Corporation is an independent U.S. foreign aid agency focused on reducing poverty through economic growth and in a well-governed developing country. And it touts transparency and measurable results. Now, that corporation was formed under the man behind me, the late Henry Hyde. It was formed on a bipartisan basis, and it made the assumption that everything was zero-based. You had to compete for it, you had to earn it, and then you would be checked and measured. If you didn't achieve it, it would be cut. Only if you were achieving it and there was still a need would there continue to be funding. Now, knowing that that's been its mission, and we won't argue whether it's achieved all of its missions or not, isn't that the mission that your administration is redirecting now for the rest of the aid program to meet those same criteria that we broadly created a whole separate corporation to do?
Let's start with the FEMA claim. They say a top FEMA official resigned because of chaos under Trump. Let's get real. That's one person's opinion, not facts. Under President Trump, FEMA was more responsive during natural disasters than ever before. He cut wasteful spending, not emergency response. Big difference. Now they're targeting Kristi Noem there, calling her policy to review large purchases stupid. That's fiscal responsibility. We're in a time where every taxpayer dollar counts. Noem was making sure the system wasn't abused, and they spin that into a scandal. Calls to FEMA went unanswered. How about blaming local and state leaders who failed to prepare? Or maybe, just maybe, don't point fingers when your own party has been defunding police, ICE, and emergency services for years. Then comes the ultimate deflection. Trump called us liars. Of course he did. Because you were lying. Twisting policy critiques into personal attacks is the oldest trick in the book. Trump didn't gut FEMA, he streamlined it. Big difference. But truth doesn't fit the leftist narrative, does it? Now here comes the real whopper. Trump accused Obama of treason, and guess what? That's a real conversation. If you're not willing to ask questions about what happened in 2016, about the weaponization of the FBI and fake dossiers, you're willfully ignoring history. They call that delusional, while ignoring real treason. Trump never blackmailed anyone. Biden did with Ukraine. Remember Hunter, the shady money? But they flipped the script and accused Trump of everything they're guilty of. Insurrection? Really? One protest that got out of control and was infiltrated. By the way, isn't an insurrection. It's nothing compared to the chaos BLM caused. And yet, the media calls one peaceful and the other a coup. Wake up, folks. Now they're dragging out the university case. Trump settled lawsuits, like every major businessman in America. But what about all the fake promises from the Biden administration? Promises to fix the border, to lower inflation, to unite the country? All lies. Where's the outrage? Calling Trump a crook? The man gave up a billionaire lifestyle to serve this country. He lost money being president. Meanwhile, the left gets rich selling out America to China. If you think Trump's the problem, you're not paying attention.
Thank you, Congressman, for that question. Yes, but as I mentioned in my opening statements, the efforts that we have taken, that Secretary Rubio, that the President has taken, is meant to streamline these functions, to streamline these opportunities. If we have multiple siloed efforts underway, it takes more time to implement, and
Madam Secretary, I couldn't agree with you more. And I want to narrow the question because I believe that you've just begun to do the right thing. I believe that Millennium Challenge Corporation was the right idea, except that I question today whether or not, when we're competing for hearts and minds and for effective helping of foreign countries, if that stated goal shouldn't be for one agency under the Secretary of State combined. So I'm delighted to see USAID rolled back into state. During the Trump 1 administration, I was designated as the Trade Development Agency head. I would hope that we would do the same thing even further with the other fundings and loan programs. But you said something that I think is very important. You said that things should serve America's interest. And I just want to ask you a couple of questions. They're mostly yes or no. One, is America's interest in alleviating poverty with those countries that if our money were added, we would help them do that? Meaning you don't put the money just anywhere, you put it where it can make a difference.
Yes, that's what our assistance programs are aimed to
Okay,
do.
and doesn't that mean that you inherited a countless amount of overlapping programs that have been around for a very long time that had not achieved their goal, were not achieving their goal, and in some cases with countries that were not currently structured to benefit from that money?
So this is exactly the goal of the reorganization as it relates to foreign assistance programs, by putting the foreign assistance programs into the State Department under the governance of the regional bureaus, being executed overseas with oversight from the ambassadors who have been empowered to make sure these programs meet the needs that they were intended for. That's exactly the goal of Secretary Rubio.
Now, if I can use my remaining time to be a little specific and parochial, recently there was an effort on the House floor in appropriations to defund the Lebanese armed forces in their effort to basically to eliminate Hezbollah's ability to regenerate itself and threaten its neighbors. The State Department has continued, along with DOD, the funding of the Lebanese armed forces, along with other aid to Lebanon in that effort. Do you stand by that as a good investment in a country trying to emerge from being an occupied state?
Sir, thank you for that question. As is true across the region, in the Middle East, the president is aimed at seeing a ceasefire across all of the conflicts that are going on. As you probably are aware, Ambassador Barrick is very much engaged in Lebanon and working on—
And Syria. I appreciate him being special envoy to both.
And ambassador to Turkey. He wears multiple hats, as many do in our organization. But he's very much engaged in that, and it's the goal of the administration to ensure that the region returns to stability, peace, and prosperity in the future as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yield back.
Thank you, Congressman.
Chair now recognizes.
This entire video is one big deflection campaign. They accuse Trump of doing the exact things they've done. That's the pattern. But that's the tactic. That's the MO. And yet Trump still stands. Stronger than ever. They fear him. That's why they lie. That's why they smear. Because they know he's coming back. And they can't stop it. So too the liars, the leakers, and the left-wing media hacks. Keep talking. Keep smearing. Because the American people are wide awake. And no amount of fake outrage or twisted stories will stop the America First movement. We're just getting started. Like, share, subscribe, drop a comment if you're tired of the media's lies and ready to take our country back. God bless President Trump. God bless Kristi Noem. And God bless the United States of America.